Good morning everyone. This is mid-January. It's pretty cold and I'm here in the Peak District in a small town called Castleton. And today I'm going to look at Peveril Castle. Now before I go and visit the castle, I'm just going to take a look at it from behind. I'm going to climb a place called Cavedale, which runs behind Peveril Castle. So hopefully we're going to see some pretty cool shots. So this is our first proper look at Peveril Castle here from Cavedale. We'll zoom in a little bit and see the garderobe. And that is a toilet on a castle. I'll just tell you a little bit about where we are. We're near Castleton in the Peak District. And what we're looking at right now is Peveril Castle, built sometime between 1066 and 1086, and then extended and so forth over the years until finally it was abandoned. So, who did this castle belong to? Well, it belonged to a Norman knight called William Peveril. Now, he fought at the Battle of Hastings, and he was a favourite, it seems, of William the Conqueror. And some people say he was the illegitimate son of William the Conqueror. Though to the Normans that did not mean a fair deal, because William the Conqueror was illegitimate himself. So, this castle was built by William Peveril, and the Domesday Book recorded that he had built it, so he wasn't here before. So, who were these Normans, and why are they building castles in England? Well, 1066, three pretenders to the crown, Harald, and William, they all kind of fought it out. Harold defeated Harald, but then was in turn defeated by William at the Battle of Hastings, and that's how the Normans ended up ruling England. Now the Normans were, simple way of putting it, the Normans were Vikings living in France. So the Normans had all of England, but not everyone was happy. So the North rebelled, but William the Conqueror put down the revolt quite brutally in what was called the Harrying of the North, where whole towns were wiped out, fields were salted so they wouldn't grow, livestock were killed. And to him this was just teaching people a lesson, teaching them, hey, I'm the king now. But the Normans knew they had to build lots of castles to garrison, to make sure that these revolts didn't happen. So a lot of castles are built in Northumbria and Durham. And there's this one here in Derbyshire, Peveril Castle. So reaching the top of Cavedale now. And this, along with Winnett's Pass, is one of the two sort of routes down into Castleton. As it stands right now, this castle is both in a national park and it's also a Grade 1 listed building and a scheduled monument. It's cared for by English Heritage, and it is a show castle. You can go up the castle, and we'll do that in a few minutes. So William Peveril and his son William Peveril the Younger both had this castle, but then in 1114, during the anarchy between Empress Matilda and King Stephen, The Peverils backed the losing horse. So, at some point during the anarchy and all these troubles, the Earl of Chester accused William Peveril of trying to poison him. And the man who had become King Henry II accused William Peveril of plunder and treachery, and threatened to confiscate all his lands. He became King Henry II, and he did just that. So the Peverils lost their holdings, including Peveril Castle. Just heading back down into Castleton now, and we'll talk a little bit about Castleton and just take a look around it. Nowadays, Castleton is a honeypot. It's a place with lots of tourist shops, B&Bs, things like that. It's quite popular because it's got the castle up on the hill. It's got a great ridge of Mamtor behind me. It's got several show caves in the area. It's near Kinder Scout and Edale and lots of really good hiking areas. So if you want to come to the Peak District National Park and you just want a focal area to do lots of cool things, then I recommend coming to Castleton. It's quite nice. Before the castle was built, Castleton was still here, though named something else, and it was used for lead mining. And lead mining has been here for a long time. The way up to the castle is up here, but we're going to head down into Castleton itself, just take a look around. Now, walking up and down the town, you've probably seen a few signs for something called Blue John. This one here. Blue John is a fluorspar mineral here, and it's kind of blue, yellow, and people make things out of it. Local craftsmen make pots and jewellery out of it. So here is some of the Blue John on display. See, it can be purple through to yellows. While I'm here looking at Mamtor, I just want to point out one of the show caves, one of the few you can go in, which is called Tree Cliff. So here we can see the keep and what's left of the curtain wall, and this would be a gate with an arch. You can just see part of the arch here on this eastern gate. So let's take a look along this curtain wall, and this little tower that sticks out. Not much left of this at all. By the 16th century this castle was really abandoned. Just no need for it. Now we're inside the bailey. You can see the layout is actually sort of a triangle. These 3 points here between the gatehouse, which in its time is probably a very impressive structure, this northwest corner, and then southwest corner made up of the keep itself. I know what you're thinking, hey, this isn't much of a wall, but bear in mind that this was probably 17 foot at one point. It would have been extremely impressive, but hey, this is pretty good rock. Let's use it in construction, and that's how a lot of the town will have been built. This looks like some sort of rain gutter, or as how I would have used it, a urinal. Standing on a bit of wall. So, if you can just see, there's a bit of rock here, a little bit of rock on the ground just down there, and follow it to here. Imagine this being a hall with a roof above me. This would be where they would have dined, and here was the fireplace. So this is the wall on the west side. You see, it's all the herringbone masonry, it's all the different angled masonry, small stones. So, what's this strange little hole in the wall? Why, it's another garderobe. Now, the lucky people of this castle had not one, but at least 2 toilets. That's quite luxurious. Possibly Malcolm IV of Scotland, Henry II, King John, Henry III. Possibly those royal horse chinks sat over this hole. Makes you feel humble. Looking along the western edge here, you can see the levelled areas where there would have been buildings as well as the hall just here. And I guess this is where a lot of the living quarters would have been, because this western side is probably the least likely to have been attacked because it's the steepest. We'll have a look down the gorge later on to see why this side was steepest. So this little bit of the gorge is probably not very steep, but there would have been a bridge going across here, and on the other side would have been the outer bailey, though now there's nothing to be seen. And the keep nowadays is owned by this cat just here. He seems quite comfortable showing guests around. So this is the south wall, and this is the first thing we saw when we saw the castle, because we looked up from Cavedale. And it's just down there by that little cave where I was doing lots of filming. Here we can take a better look up Cavedale. Now, during Henry II's reign, a lot of the castle was rebuilt. It'd only been there for 100 years, but it needed some upgrades. So when Henry II's wife and sons rebelled against him, he put in some money to have the fortifications increased. And you can tell by the different masonry from the different periods. Also, after the rebellion, he increased the castle again by spending more money. And Henry III, King John's son, did the same. But by the 1600s, it was abandoned. I've nicknamed this cat William, after both William the Conqueror and William Peveril. But it is time to leave him because we need to look at the most impressive structure of the castle. That's its keep. There's just the outside of the garderobe. Well, that's been inside the bailey and the keep. So let's take another walk back down. We've looked at the south side. We've looked at the north side. Looked at a little bit of the east side. But there's another well protected area. That's the west side. So let's take a look at that. And also talk about the cave there. Now, I'm just walking down to Peak Cavern, though it used to be known as the Devil's Arse because of the flatulent noise the wind would make coming out of it. It's one of 4 show caves in Castleton area. There's Peak Cavern, Treecliff, Speedwell and Blue John Cavern. So this is a Peak's Hole water, a little stream that runs out the caves, and just looking up you start to see the gorge, which is on the west side of the castle. So here we are in this gorge near Peak Cavern, and looking up you can see the keep of Peveril Castle. That's why I said that the west side is probably the hardest one to get up, and that's why they had the hall there and all the other structures. But now we're looking towards Peak Cavern, Devil's Arse. It's the largest natural cave entrance in Britain, and until the early 20th century it was home to some of the last remaining troglodytes in Britain. People used to make ropes in here, but now it's mainly used for a show cave, people to go on tours. So, as well as having the largest cave entrance in Britain, it's also got the deepest shaft, Titan shaft, discovered only a few short years ago, and it is quite deep shaft. Well, I think that's it for Peveril Castle. We've looked at the south side, down in Cavedale, east side, also Cavedale. We've looked at here, the west side, Peak Cavern, this fantastic gorge and huge cave. And I've looked at the north side, the only accessible route. You know, that's quite a steep climb as well. I hope you enjoyed it. Castleton's very dear to my heart. It's close to where I live, and this is where I was taken as a young boy. This is what got me interested in history and hiking, the outdoors. So this is what started it all. Hope you enjoyed it.